In an interview, when asked why his recent play has been so consistently good, Thunder guard Shai Gilgeous-Alexander responded with this.
My whole life is consistent. Everything I do.
So that got me thinking, using numbers, can we prove which players in the NBA are the most consistent and inconsistent? So I set out to look at all the data. And to complete this research, we'll be using a statistic called GameScore. GameScore uses data from the box score to come up with a single number value to illustrate how well a player performed in a given game. After calculating a specific player's average game score on the season, we'll then sort each performance into 4 different categories. Let's use the example of Jalen Brunson, whose average game score for the season is exactly 20. The 4 different categories are a great game, a good game, an okay game, and a poor game. A great game is any game where a player has a 125% higher game score than their average game score for the season. For Jalen, that means any game with a game score of 25 is considered a great game. Next, the good game, which falls between 75% and 125%. For Jalen, this is any game with a game score between 15 and 25. An okay game falls between 50 and 75%, meaning that's 10 to 15, and a poor game is anything below 50% of the player's average game score. So for Jalen, this is anything below a game score of 10 on the season. When analyzing the data for Jalen Brunson, we can see that he has 30.5% or 21 games in the great category, 40.7 or 28 games in the good category, 20.3% or 14 games in the okay category, and 8.5% or 6 games in the poor category. One thing that's important about this whole research that is key to remember is that consistency is relative to each player. Going back to Jalen Brunson, one of his poor games would be considered a good game for Jrue Holiday. Consistency is when a player plays at a similar level to their own personal averages and not when compared to any other players. Now that we've explained the methodology, let's take a look at different players around the league to see where they fall. First, let's take a look at players who are the most inconsistent. On these visuals you're about to see, the number in parentheses right beside the player's name is their average game score for the season. The guards with the highest percentage of poor games are Keyonte George, Marcus Sasser, Anthony Black, Jordan Hawkins, Quentin Grimes, both the Thompson twins, Scoot Henderson, and Jordan Poole. The common trend with all these players is that they're all young guards or inefficient scorers. Young guards often struggle with efficiency and consistency when coming into the league. If these players can turn their poor games into okay or good ones using playmaking or defense, they won't be as much of a liability to their team. Next, if we take a look at forwards who are the most inconsistent, we get a list of players like Tobias Harris, Michael Porter Jr., Keldon Johnson, OG Anunoby, Trey Murphy, Keegan Murray, Josh Hart, Cam Johnson, and DeAndre Hunter. The big takeaway is that most of these players are positive shooters that excel in the catch and shoot. Most of these players are also pretty good wing defenders that are versatile in terms of which positions they can guard. The reason these guys are so inconsistent isn't actually a diss at their game, because their offensive output mainly comes from spot-up shots or shot creation. They have off nights and don't take as many shots. These players aren't the number 1 option on their team, rather options 3 or 4, and because of that, certain nights they have the ball more or less in their hands. Regardless of below average shooting performances, they are always one of the best players on the floor because of their defense. For example, a player like Trey Murphy can have 8 points against the Pistons and 28 points against the Hawks. However, the Pelicans won both games by 13 and he had a plus-minus of 14 in both games, making a similar impact regardless of his scoring performance. Looking at the players who are most consistent but aren't stars, we see players like Aaron Gordon, Jalen Duren, Mark Williams, Jakob Poeltl, Jarrett Allen, Mitchell Robinson, John Collins, Walker Kessler, and Clint Capella. The common theme here is the role these players play. Most of these guys fit the mold of a traditional big man. They're not known for their scoring, but excel at rebounding and defense. Most of their points will be scored inside the paint, and they're solid in the pick and roll as both a screener and a roller. They usually don't shoot the ball too much, but are very efficient as their shots come predominantly at the rim. They're good at giving you 10 and 10 on any night with a block or 2 involved. Taking a look at the players with the top 50 average game score in the league, let's see who's the most inconsistent first. Players on the most inconsistent list are James Harden, Fred VanVleet, Tyrese Halliburton, Cam Thomas, Jalen Green, and Cade Cunningham. To calculate this, I looked at players with the highest percentage of okay and poor games. Halliburton's play has significantly decreased after the All-Star break due to his hand injury, which is why he's having a lot of poor games lately. Both Cunningham and VanVleet have been historically inefficient throughout their entire careers, and this type of play will hurt their performances on days when they're abysmal from the field. Harden plays on a team with other stars, so his role tends to fluctuate based on the needs that night, and he's also been going through a slump lately. Cam Thomas and Jalen Green can both be the top scorers in the NBA at their peak, but their worst games tend to be extremely inefficient, where they contribute less on the playmaking and defensive facets of the game. However, Jalen Green has been on a heater lately for the surging Rockets, and this has boosted his consistency numbers. And now, to answer the question everyone has been waiting for, who are the most consistent stars in the entire NBA? To narrow it down to the 5 most consistent players in the NBA, the requirements I'll be having is that they're top 15 usage, top 15 average game score, and have good or great games over than 80% of the time. Some honorable mentions who just fell short of the 80% mark include Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid, Alperen Şengün, Nikola Jokic, Chet Holmgren, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Jason Tatum, Devin Booker, Julius Randle, and Trae Young. In 5th place of the most consistent stars in the NBA, we have Anthony Davis, a player who many Lakers fans think doesn't show up. AD actually has 80.1% of his games in the good or great category. Not only are his performances on the court extremely consistent, he's also played 96 out of the last 100 games for the Lakers. Contrary to popular opinion, he's extremely available and is the 5th most consistent player in the NBA. In 4th place, we have a man who seems to defy the concept of time, and that is LeBron James. Although the Lakers aren't a superpower by any means, what LeBron is doing every game in year 21 is crazy. Him placing 4th on the list with 80.7% of games in the good or great category is a testament to his longevity over his entire career. In 3rd place, we have Kevin Durant, who's had 81% of his games in the good or great category. Although the Suns might be in the play-in, Kevin Durant himself is having a very good individual season, and his numbers post-Achilles tear have actually been better than before he got injured. Kevin Durant might just be the greatest scorer we've ever witnessed step on an NBA court at just a pure scoring, what he can do at his frame, his height. He's also super consistent, day in and day out, the ability to score, shoot the ball, and bring it all on the floor, even though his team might not be the best right now. In 2nd place, with 82.5% of his games being in the good or great category, we have Luka Doncic, who is my personal pick for MVP. What he's been able to do this year, averaging over 33 points per game, over 9 assists and 9 rebounds, while also taking a Mavs team that is filled with him, Kyrie, and a bunch of role players that fits their system, to being very good after the All-Star break, and they're now the 5th seed, and I think they can make a good sleeper run in the playoffs. And you see a guy like Luka, every day you know what he's going to get. You know he's going to hit a step back 3 on you, you know he's going to screen, you know he's going to roll to the basket, you know he's going to play make, he's going to have some really crazy shots, really crazy assists, and that's why he's super consistent. Even though everything he's doing is out of this world, he's extremely consistent with that performance. And coming in at number 1 as the most consistent player in the entire NBA, we have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Yup, that's right, the guy from the start of this video. Many people have called him consistent, but now we have the stats to actually back it up. Around 86% of his performances this season fall into the great or good category, with only 3% falling into the poor category. That means for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, only 3% of the games he's played this year have been below 50% of his average game score. What he's doing as a leader of this extremely young Thunder team and performing on a daily level is crazy. I mean, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is everything you want in your leader. He's also one of the best young players in today's NBA, and he's super consistent. He's having a great season, and although I don't think he's my personal MVP, he's top 3 for sure. He's going to be all NBA first team, and he is Mr. Consistent in today's NBA, taking the crown as the most consistent player in the entire NBA. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed my analysis on the most consistent and inconsistent players in the NBA, please subscribe to the channel. I'll be back with a banger soon. Peace.